Now?
Chelsey, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
That is, for listeners, Chelsey and I were dealing with technical difficulties that inevitably happen, but now you are so clear that it is exciting. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm good. You're up there in Seattle, aren't you?
I sure am. I'm actually working from a building at the University of Washington today. I was in the TechStars Accelerator program, and they have an office here, and they have a big event today. So we're all invited to work out of the same place.
Well, that's exciting. Did you get your MBA from there?
I did. Yeah.
What do they call it? Wash dubs or something? What is the
UW?
UW? There you go.
Yeah.
It was something like that. I have a bunch of friends from Seattle. Actually, believe it or not, the last place that I have traveled since COVID was a flight in March of 2020 coming home from a board retreat on an island right off of Seattle, Vashon
Bainbridge,
Island.
Vashon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's lovely. Mm-hmm.
Friends who live on Vashon Island, and that was literally the last trip. And the first outbreak, quote unquote, air quotes, right, was in Seattle, and we didn't know anything about this crazy. I actually don't know. I hope we know more 2 years later, but I'm not quite clear on that. Maybe, but the first outbreak that I guess was reported was in Seattle, and I was like, oh my God, I just left there, and I got off that plane, and I haven't been anywhere since. We were talking about it the other day because I haven't seen my mom. I haven't seen any family or friends really other than my wife and close friends here, just because
So you're COVID conscious or...
Oh, I just don't. Yeah, I mean, I've had pneumonia 3 times, and nobody seems to understand this. So I'm thinking I'm super healthy and everything, but I don't know. I don't want to say I'm scared of it. It's one of those things where it seems that every time they tell you something, it's proved wrong.
Yes,
so.
And there's just a lot unknown. And so if you're in a spot that you like being anyway, there's no need to travel.
Yeah, I live on vacation here in Half Moon Bay every single day. But Seattle, I remember, and having friends who went to that's a big school up there, and a lot of people. So that sounds exciting that you're doing that up there. You have an interesting background, and now you're in a startup. I actually used am I saying it right? Is it Proxi as in proximity?
You've got it, and that's exactly right. Play on proximity. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you have what I call a portable digital map, which has not really existed out there on the internet in the way that you ladies have. I think done it. And I started to map something yesterday because I have a blog for bike riding, and in order to do which I've always wanted to do, it's a side thing, side hustle, hobby to do SEO stuff and share some information about riding my bike, is to create maps that not just are Strava maps that I take a screenshot of and put on there or share my Strava, but with some people don't have Strava or they use some other thing. But with yours, you can go on there and drop a cue, and then you can write, hey, this is a sharp turn, or this is a downhill, or be careful here because deer cross, or a bobcat comes in every day, or there's a skunk here, be careful. So I don't think
spotting.
I know where there's a skunk on Stage Road on the first hill out of Pescadero, and he's been living there for a year, so I see him all the time.
Does he just hang out like on the side of the road?
Yeah, literally. I mean, he must live in the field right on the left. I'm talking to you as if you've been here before, but
now we need to come.
Yeah, there's a skunk there, and he doesn't really do anything. And there's a turkey before that, and then if you ride your bike enough on these routes, you see it. But you could put that on your maps that you created, and I don't think you created it for that. I think you created it for trick or treating, but I think it's going to morph into something.
Skunk mapping is right up there. That's good. I love
so
that.
So how did you get
case.
into
That's
this?
Good.
How did you get into this? Because you started, I think, at Microsoft, which makes sense being in Washington, or at Boeing as a financial analyst, which probably has helped you as an entrepreneur. But can you share a little bit how you got here with your co-founder?
Yeah, I totally can. So I'll make the long story short about my background, but I started off at Boeing after university. I actually went to Texas A&M University, and I had grown up in the Dallas area. My boyfriend at the time and now husband moved out to Seattle for a job with Microsoft. And so I ended up interviewing with Boeing and got this stellar job on one of 4 or 5 financial planning and analysis teams. And I got to sit really close to one of Boeing's CFOs and observe her and learn from her and produce charts for her. And it was an incredible experience and met some absolutely, super sharp people there. And I learned all my foundations of, financial analysis and, KPIs and OKRs and how to run a business. And it was an incredible start to my career. And then after that, I earned my MBA from the University of Washington in the evening program, and another fantastic experience with a lot of good folks. But after that, I transferred over to Microsoft in marketing because during my MBA, I found that I was kind of obsessed with figuring out what makes people want to do things, and specifically make purchases. And so I went to work in an omnichannel marketing group at Microsoft. Specifically, I worked quite a bit on email campaigns and webinar launches, and it was a fantastic experience. Meanwhile, we can go back to this at some point.
Well, I want to stop you there for a minute. We'll just stop.
Sure.
So, I mean, you can't. I worked in marketing analysis at America Online back in the day.
And, good.
And which was really the first big data division of any internet company.
I'm sure.
At the time, it was incredible. We were doing really cool stuff, as I imagine you were at Microsoft. But you can't sort of just roll past that and say, oh, we did email marketing and things like that without at least sharing some tips. Because the advantage of that, which is really cool, and I remember it, is, you can press a button and reach 30, 40 in these days, probably 100 million people, and get true factual statistical analysis with a confidence interval that is repeatable. Yeah. So with that, can you drop some tips of what you learned?
Yeah. So I was less on the email content side of the house and more on the literal operations side of the house. So I would feel out of my wheelhouse giving you tips from my comrades, but from my perspective, a couple of important things along the way is obviously marketing attribution. So making sure you're tracking leads, where they come from, what they're doing along the journey, what clicks they've made, the typical path that they go on throughout your marketing materials. And then also lead scoring. So I'm not sure how much you typically, if you dove into that before.
I'll tell you how far I dove into that. Me and a friend built a model that had about 100 variables that would, quote unquote, air quotes for those not watching on YouTube or some other video platform, score the customer or potential customer. And based on that score, we would route them either to a U.S. call center or an Indian call center, which people may listen and say that's not right, but we're running a business here and it costs more for a U.S. call center. And we could predict churn rate and ARPU with high level of confidence that would save the company and made the company a lot of money. I think that's why AOL, we threw off, and Microsoft's wildly profitable as well. But back then, for an internet company to be throwing off $1.9 billion of free cash flow was a pretty big deal in early 2000. So, yeah, I mean, you and I could probably geek out. I ran the actual financials in marketing analysis for our premium services division. I don't want to say I did every single one because we were a small team, but I did antivirus product, which that team took from $0 to $90 million in 12 months. And that's all based on science. It was based on the things you were doing, which is we weren't guessing at some point. We knew what converted, and we just A, B, C, D, E tested, and then leaned into what worked. And there's this magical thing that happens. It's called conversions and revenue.
Well, I mean, it's all about following the data, right? And experimenting with every variable along the way and tracking those closely and making changes when you think you can get that conversion rate up a little bit. And that's exactly what we did at Microsoft. And it's more complicated than that, obviously, but more or less it's all about tracking those leads and scoring their propensity to move forward in the process and treating them differently based on that score.
Yeah, I don't know about you, because now you're in I say it lovingly as a person who's done a bunch of them, a small startup. But I think the thing I miss about it the most is the resources to aggregate and put the data into a centralized CRM that actually does what you said a minute ago, which is not just track email campaign results of that customer, but what they touch on a website, what they touch in other ads on other platforms. And I think it's the thing that I crave the most. And in my next consumer or B to prosumer one, I got a side hustle, SaaS business, whatever it is, Chelsey, I am going to make enough money that we can hire a marketing analysis team, because once you get that right, it is. And I don't think most startups invest. I think they invest in quote unquote marketing people, which you do need, but they do not invest enough. And they invest in a finance section, but not a marketing analysis.
Without marketing analysis, your marketing team, what are they aiming at? I feel really passionately about this too. That's why I was so excited whenever we did get venture funding with Proxi. I mean, we can't do it nearly at the scale of America Online or Microsoft or anything like that. But at least I have the foundation to set up for us in terms of like, what are we measuring? How are these leads going along the journey? What is this lead taking action on? And how do they convert at the end? So it's exciting.
Would you agree that, because you and I are very similar in that sense, we work for billion-dollar companies that Microsoft are not arguably way bigger than America Online, and certainly now for sure. But I don't think people actually understand that America Online still exists with about 3 million subs, which we predicted would happen, but nonetheless, and that are still highly profitable, because I used to work on those financials, and I think our cost basis was $7.38 on a $21.95 sub. But
do you stay in touch with those folks still? Do you have any?
My AOL network.
Yeah.
I could probably say this is more valuable than my MBA and possibly anything else. I'm not minimizing the importance of friendships and connections. I mean, I went to UNC Chapel Hill, which is
great spot.
A good school with a lot of incredible, successful people that have come out of that program and that have helped me greatly. But the AOL network, all of those people, this was this is early 2000s, late 99. They're all working. Some of them are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies now because they came out of that. So do I stay in touch? Yeah. You know what it's like. You're in this little thing called marketing analysis. That's sort of the ugly stepchild that no one understands. Finance doesn't think you should necessarily exist, but they can't figure out if they should have control of you or not.
I've seen that.
You're laughing, right?
I've seen that discussion. Yes.
Marketing thinks that you're too analytical and that your numbers are off, and they, air quote, feel like this graphic is going to do better. And
no, not necessarily, right? The numbers don't lie.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't mean to. I'm not insensitive. I don't care what you feel like. I just care how it performs, and I could care less if it's green, yellow, or red. I mean,
at the end of the day, it's just all about performance. Yeah, we were debating a button color internally the other day, and I was like, we just need to put on the highest performing button color. Like, I don't care what color that darn button is. If it makes someone click it, I think that's what matters.
Yeah, I mean, we actually debate that all the time, and I say the same thing. And, the truth is that you'll feel like red. And I have a master's in psychology on top of all this.
Dangerous combination.
And worked with BJ Fogg at postgraduate work at Stanford's Persuasive Computing Lab, and am a certified advanced tiny habit coach. So I got some background in all of this, and everybody will tell me if this is true. They'll say red means stop. And you know what? For us, red means go for some reason.
For whatever. I mean, you know more about what that actual reason is than I do, but that's what the data says. So get close to
I don't
close to red as possible, right? Yeah.
I just know that it converts. I don't know more. I even tried the Amazon orange button.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Oh, I took the color code.
How was that?
Right off
Did that
doesn't
perform?
beat
not red.
It doesn't beat red for us. Now, for listeners out there,
fascinating.
Please, and I think Chelsey will tell you this, please test it, because there's so many variables why red might work for us. Maybe it's because our Pantones are complementary to red. I don't know. So make sure you A, B, C, D, E, F test before you just jump there. But I don't know. That's what we found. Have you found that?
So I just convinced us to use red as of yesterday. So it will roll out in the next couple days, my little red button. Everyone be on the lookout. The rest of our buttons are blue and not performing that well. So we'll see if I can get some more conversion.
Yeah, the blue
red.
buttons have not done well for us. The blue, we've done green, red, Amazon orange, like one-click buy button. Because I thought everyone knows that button. Yeah, exactly.
We click that button, once a day, every 2 days? Like, yeah.
But for us, it has been red, which is counterintuitive. But I think that's where people leave a lot of money on the table.
Okay, now you're obviously using white font on that red button. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it could be the font type as well, because I've had conversions change because of font type.
Yes. And now I was going to ask about capitalization on your CTA button. Do you have a
that's a great question, but I'm going to look while we're looking, because we use ClickFunnels for most of the landing pages, because they're do you use ClickFunnels?
So no, we're not using ClickFunnels right now. We're using mouse flow and amplitude.
That's more advanced, I think.
Well, I've got a technical co-founder, so that's handy.
Yeah, so I'm looking. I'll tell you what, I experimented with all caps. All caps are generally hard to read. That's how I felt. But I think we went with capital letter and then small letters. I'm literally looking at the campaign that we run Facebook ads to and Instagram ads to a lead magnet.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that I think every button on the page is capitalized first letter. It's actually, so in this landing page, send it to me. It says send it to me, and it's capital S, and the rest just a regular sentence. And then we put it's free with a capital I with a period. And that actually has converted on a free lead magnet better.
Okay. So tell me when we need to move on from the subject.
No, we don't. I don't know how much time you have. I'll talk to you all day about this. So.
Okay, so what we did, we agree that the word free pans out for us well. We're a free tool after all. but we just debated on the length of the terminology in the button, or the length of the CTA in the button. And I hadn't done much research on that prior, and it looked like 4 words was kind of a magic number. So that's where we landed, and we had to put the "it's free" line up somewhere else. But you're saying that maybe I should put it.
Well, I'm showing you.
Look at this. Show me the good.
I'm going to show. This is real. So if you're listening, I encourage you to go find our YouTube channel. But this is real. I'm logged into our ClickFunnels right here. This is it, and this is after. So on this, just to put it into context for you, on the graphic and the copy that gets a person here, we have over 3,000 likes on the paid ad.
Okay. Yep.
And
that's a lot.
We have probably a few hundred comments and a few hundred forwards. So at this point, and you know this, listeners who aren't as familiar with marketing analysis and running each stage, truly analyzing it, when they come into this page, they have momentum, because testimonials I was just reading a study. I actually didn't know that you did all that. So now I'm super excited, but not that I wasn't excited because I used your product, but I was just reading a scientific study that showed lift with testimonials, 25%.
Okay. Written testimonial or video testimonial?
That didn't.
It didn't surface.
You and I have to follow up afterwards.
Okay.
I don't want to share that too right now, and then you and I start reading the study. But the testimonials, I will tell you that we've tried both. I think that having both are good, because most people are scrolling or looking with their volume off in general. So you've got to have either transcribed or you've got to have it written.
Yeah.
But I'm setting up the context here so that you and everyone understand. They're coming in with momentum. The front end of this matches this. So they're seeing the same colors, the same fonts. It doesn't feel like they've been put off into a funnel. It feels an extension. So anyway, all that, this is the winning landing page. And this converts.
And what are you trying to get here? Email address. Okay. So you're driving.
I'm driving email address only right now because of the waterfall that happens when you add another additional thing. I'd love to get their text message, but I feel it's too early in the funnel to do that. And this converts at as high as 80% some days.
Whoa. That is not a joke.
No, it's not a joke.
That's incredible. That's an incredible number.
Now, there's some days that it's performed not well. Recently, I will tell you, with the iOS update, the performance isn't as good as it used to be, but I'm going to look here. I'll stop sharing so you and I can see each other. And let me look here. Performance is way north of 60%, which, as you know, is still off the chart.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't get more real than that on this show.
No, that is some awesome data.
Yeah, so interesting enough, June has been terrible. With the iOS update, I got to tell you, targeting has been awful. I mean, we reduced
which is
our
one
ads.
of the reasons why we created Proxi, but we can get into that one.
Yeah, let's talk about, why? Well, what does that mean when you say that?
Yeah, so basically, we know that the iOS updates and there's this whole movement toward privacy, and businesses aren't able to see as much as they were able to on leads. And so with Proxi, we are going to, the infrastructure is currently being built out to report on map analytics to map creators. So we're going to be reporting, right now we report on views and map point views. Shortly, we'll report on map point conversions, which we'll know by location data. And we'll also have, obviously, quite a bit of other info for map creators, since we do have location data. So it will be an awesome way, or it is an awesome way to target customers with our maps, or understand customers better.
I think this privacy thing's been going on. I started my first company. So I don't think I told you. I built and ran what became the largest social networking and e-commerce site for sport fishermen on the internet. And I sold it to a big media company. That's how I got the studio, my house in Half Moon Bay, and a bunch of other things. But
all it takes is one good sale.
I've sold another company that was a save, quite candidly, and I probably tried 25 other ideas, and that's probably being not even, I probably tried 50, but it takes all you need is one to get you over the hump.
Yep.
And then once you get that sale and you realize that it's possible and you get a little money in your bank account, you buy yourself some space effectively.
Yes.
And you can do it. But we were talking about conversion rates and the iOS update and this whole privacy thing.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, this privacy thing's been going on since I started that company in 1996. And I was on YouTube. I got put into the behavioral YouTube spiral one night, and it's all on purpose. You know that, right? It's just driving the data, and they have what you're creating. They have the same thing. They know the data in that ecosystem really well, especially that's why they make you log in. But the which I'm not opposed to. I love to hear your thoughts, but in 1982 or 83, Walter Cronkite, or one of the well-known broadcasters, was interviewing Steve Jobs. Okay. This is 1982. And his question was, which he drilled him on, what about privacy, Steve? Privacy, privacy, privacy. 1982. Some people listening weren't even born. This discussion has been going on, and I'll be very honest. If you want a free service, then you have to give up something or pay a subscription. And as soon as you say that, people, I'm not paying for Google Maps. I'm not paying for my Gmail. I'm not paying. Did Sergey and Larry, who founded Google, go to the tree in the back of Palo Alto and pick off some money to pay the servers? I mean, this is it. The entitlement issue. Cool. Which we as tech people have created, by the way, by giving shit away for free, is we almost created our own problem, is crazy to me. I don't know. What do you think?
But it extends so far past tech at this point. Getting things for free has created a number of issues.
It's not free. It's right. You have to give something.
And that's what people don't quite realize, is that you're giving away your data. You're giving away, I guess data is the main thing, but,
Well, what are we scared? What do you think people are scared of? What are people scared of? Like, oh, I bought this from Amazon today and I'm going to serve you something that you might actually
as a marketer, I love it. I'm like, take my data. I want some targeted ads. Like, what might be my next purchase? They know me better than I know me. But, I personally don't subscribe to being scared about having my data tracked. It is in a million different ways already, but I can see why someone might be a little bit nervous. There have been some scary things happening lately. So,
like what?
Well, I mean, I don't want to go down political rabbit holes, but there's just, sometimes you're like, well, gosh, I don't know who or what I can trust right now.
Well, I'm not on this show. I'm not scared to talk about anything. So you can dance around it, but I mean, if we don't talk about it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So let's just be honest.
Sure.
Let's have a real conversation. If you give away your content for free, everything is about incentives. Everything. So the media is incentivized to not do good journalism anymore. They are incentivized to get a click.
Mm-hmm. And they have to be. They have to be, though. How else are they going to make money?
I'm agreeing with you. Like, I don't think it's then pay a subscription. But then people don't want to pay the subscription.
Legitimate news if people paid subscriptions to news channels and newspapers. But people don't want to. So
right. So
here we are.
Basically, the editor whose job is on the line to be able to earn his income to pay his mortgage and support his
actual family. Yeah, their family. Yep.
Their family is incentivized to make sure that they get the click, because if they don't get the click, the owner or the CFO comes back and says, hey, we're not going to make payroll. We're going to have to lay off a bunch of people.
You didn't meet your KPI. You're out.
So
yeah,
it's not as what. And then what happens is that the political people who are pushing their agenda, who are incentivized to do it because they're in a position that if they don't do it, their constituents don't vote for them again, and then they don't get their position of power and money and license to do a whole bunch of stuff, right?
Yes.
So, which I'm not criticizing. I'm just stating the facts here. This isn't a political thing, because I came to this realization the other day, Chelsey. Someone's like, I made a comment. I'm not going to say on what, but I made a comment on a current issue.
Okay.
And they said, well, that makes you so far right. And I said,
no.
And I said, it doesn't make me anything. I'm not. And what I've realized is I don't even understand right and left anymore.
Well, we've lost our ability to have any time in the gray zone. And you have to be classified as this or that or bucketed. And along with getting things for free, that's part of, some sort of
as
decline.
A marketer, I'm with you. I want every single, and recently I was like, maybe I should, when I started studying with BJ Fogg in this book that I recently read called Stolen Focus, he starts out with awareness and realizing how things are architected to quote unquote keep you in, or
like online or with an online
like
focus?
We use this data so that I can get Chelsey to go down this rabbit hole, so to speak, that I can make more money, or I can get you to buy something, which we've been doing for like 10,000 years, by the way.
Right.
And catalog companies.
In different formats.
Yeah. Catalog companies used to share their data for free to build their list so that they could get a deeper number of contact data points, and everyone would win. This is fact.
Right.
It's just that nobody understands it. And there's nothing wrong with it, quite candidly. They're not doing anything evil. If you do something evil, that's a problem. I will agree with that. But
there's a fine line between, sharing information. I mean, that's why, company integrity boards exist, or value statements, or whatever. I mean, so that people hopefully don't start to cross those lines with data that they have.
I mean, if we're going to go down that line, are magicians manipulative?
I've never thought about that.
Well, think about that for a second. So think about this.
I've never liked a magic show. I feel like I'm getting tricked here.
Magicians create magic because they are experts at human beings who are highly predictable animals.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they know the blind spot. So are magicians manipulative?
Yes. But manipulation has such a negative connotation. And it's like some harmless magic. Does it really fall under manipulation with that connotation? I don't know. But probably true to the definition, yeah.
So now magic's bad.
What can we do anymore?
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is it's ridiculous. Like, let's just collect the data, follow the data. But going back to my, let me finish. I did look up our conversion rate.
Okay.
And post iOS, we were 76, 78, 80%. Now we are at 50 overall. I'm giving you 90 days worth of data. We're converting at 56.25% on that landing page, which is still pretty good. And
can you exclude iOS data? I was just listening to a podcast about how someone was recommending excluding iOS data, only looking at other data because they make up like 50% of the population anyway, and just going off those numbers.
Well, that would imply that you can actually find out that it's on an iOS or a Windows or Chrome. So we have not been able to do that, but like you, we don't have we have me and two other quote unquote tech people and another person who's technical enough to do Zapiers and things like that. So we just don't have the resources to build that.
There's only
model.
so much time in the day. I mean, there's only so much time in the day.
So the iOS update has without a doubt affected. It has affected some things more than others. It has affected paid ads for us. It has not affected email as much as people believed. I believe from looking at the data, because the truth of the matter is most people have a Gmail account, and most people check the Gmail account on the Gmail app on their phone or the web browser. I'm an Apple user, an Apple Mail user, not because of privacy, but because it all works together for me. But that population of people, I think, has been over exaggerated, because we still see. Well, I actually had a DMARC record issue. Are you familiar with all that stuff in email marketing?
Oh, if you remind me.
So the DMARC record authenticates your email. And if you don't have a DMARC record and you're not authenticating with your Google Workspace, your emails, then your emails are going to get scored, and they're going to wind up in the spam update or another box.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So we had a major issue. We had a major issue that I didn't realize was major until I was fixing a minor issue yesterday and spent 3.5 hours on the phone with Google into the evening. But
we were absolutely.
Sorry.
Good job.
On chat.
I'm glad you got him.
Chat.
Oh, okay. Chat. I was like, congrats. Where's that number?
Well, for me, whatever. Yeah, the chat was just as good for me. But and then, but I think it's been exaggerated on email. Our open rates are still very high, and we're getting the tracking data on links and opens. And I think that's just because Gmail owns, for the most part, and Yahoo maybe slightly, but Gmail owns the market.
Well, yeah, and especially most likely your target customer.
Yeah, I mean, SMBs, I mean, on the enterprise, I was actually talking to a lady the other day who works, I'm not going to say what company, she works for a major CRM company.
Okay.
And one you would know. And I said, are people using Google Workspace these days, or are they using 365? Because I recently saw some data that looked like Google Workspace was probably a quarter or a fifth of what 365. And she said, my customers are Fortune 1000s, and I'm seeing more of them start to switch to Google Workspace, which means they're on the Google platform. And she interestingly shared that the coasts are going to Google Workspace in even the enterprise, but the Midwest is still doing on-prem Microsoft. So
God, I feel like that goes with my gut check. Like that seems to check out. But as a Microsoft fangirl, makes me sad.
I don't know. Microsoft's so old school. My wife uses 365 and she won't get off of it. And I'm like, it just sucks. But in all fairness, I'm an Apple person. And if you're an Apple person, the products just don't. The only product that I will never give up unless somebody can absolutely surpass it, I think you would agree, is Microsoft Excel on a Windows machine. There's
nothing better than a good Excel moment. But,
I mean, because of all the shortcuts don't work on the Mac.
Right, that's true. And there's just nothing that can replace Excel shortcuts and formulas and things, or nothing that has yet. But Notion, do you all use Notion?
Well, I've been hearing a lot about it. Tell me.
Yeah, we've actually switched to it over Excel, over Google Sheets in many cases. It just helps us visualize data very simply, and it's super duper easy to use. So now we use it to even run sprint planning for our developers. We use it to run road mapping for marketing and ops. We use it for team meeting notes. We've truly switched over to Notion unless we are running like some analysis, you know, like yesterday we were running correlations in Excel, but other than that, we're pretty
so
well.
you're using Notions over Jira or Trello or something like that?
Over everything. Yes.
What?
Yeah, check it out. Yeah, so you can actually visualize like to-do items in board format, similar to those apps. Yeah, it's a great tool.
Sorry, my computer started timeout on me, but not timeout. I put it into a place on the screen where it sleeps. But so get Notion for free, one workspace every team.
Yeah.
Huh.
At some point, I would be happy to, maybe offline show you a walkthrough of our internal company Notion, but it's been really helpful for us.
I'd love to see that. We currently use, on our setup, we use Jira. So are the software engineers using Notion?
Yeah, for sprint management.
They are, and that...
Just like task management.
I mean,
So, and then
I'm
we
shocked.
actually put all of our design documents in the tool as well. And my product manager works out of there. Like, and the most amazing thing is that no one has complained. Like, you know, every work system you use, someone's like, oh, I'm grumbling about it for some, you know, who knows what reason. But it's like been a surprising low number of complaints from my entire team.
Where'd this company come from?
You know,
I've heard of it. I've heard it a lot. I just never.
I feel bad.
This is the first time.
Yeah, usually I dig pretty deep into the starts of companies, but I haven't done that with Notion. So.
How'd you get on Notion from Microsoft?
Oh, I kicked and screamed, but my co-founder was like, "You have to try Notion," and I was like, I got on. I was like, "Damn it! It's actually pretty wonderful."
And it's a word processor too.
Yeah, like you can create documents inside of it. Mm-hmm.
And you're saying that you're running financial models in there versus Excel?
No, so we have our financials in Excel, and we also run like any statistical analysis still in Excel. But in terms of like keeping lists of things or pivot table views or things like that, have all gone to Notion.
Huh. Well, I heard a lot. I've heard people talking about it, and I've heard it in the conversations.
Actually, my husband and I use it for our personal home management as well. And so like you have a calendar, even, you know, so you can make inputs in a table. They can get transferred to a calendar view. It's helpful.
It sounds very appealing. I've just been sold. I'm not saying you're selling it. I've heard this story. It's a big testament because you are a tech lady who is deep into it, I imagine. And I know you appreciate that stuff, having worked in financial modeling. So that means a lot. That'll push me over the hump to check it out. Yeah, go mess around with it. It's a good time. If not, it's a good 20 minutes spent exploring a new tool. Are you on Google Workspace? We are. Again, so you're not using the docs and that stuff. You're just using the email. We use email, and we actually do use docs. Like contracts, we store in docs, things like this. But most of our documentation is in Notion. It'll come to you. Do you use Slack? Discord. What's this Discord like? I had a lady on the show yesterday who is 14 years old and has written 17 books. Need to know. I will listen to that episode. That is fascinating. How is she so prolific? What is she writing about? Shantae. What's her last name? I forget. She is an incredible young woman. I just shaking my head the whole time. She writes novels, and she writes, these are 60 to 75,000 word books. When did she start? When she was like 11? 2.5 years ago, she's written 17 books. Is she in school? Did she drop out? No. She's a little enterpriser. Okay. Here's my beef about like middle school in general. Like people don't just say, if you know your passion, like go write books then. Like hell, why don't you start now? Like I was an entrepreneur
No one told me I could get started back then. Like, that's way cool.
Yeah, I am. She's incredibly impressive. Not only is she impressive, she's so impressive that we stayed on talking after the show was over, which I recorded part of her. And this morning I woke up and I was like, I'm just going to offer her $1,000 to do, because I'm writing a book right now on how to write a business plan in 13 slides, which I used to teach the course and pitch deck to raise money after 2.5 decades. And I was a venture capitalist. I figured it out. I mean, it works. And I've had students.
There's kind of a formula to it.
There is. And I've tested it, as you and I would do. I've had 1,500 students, and I've taken a student who has not ever raised money or written a business plan, and on her first pitch got an A-list investor who also agreed to be on our board. And then I had another lady. I mean, I could keep going down the list. This other lady, though, I met on a Friday, and she was going to pitch a bunch of VCs. Super smart woman, an incredible woman. And I helped her over the weekend because I just couldn't, with good conscience, let her go into the VCs and do this. And a few weeks later, she raised. Now, look, she has a good idea, and she's super passionate, and she's qualified, but it definitely played a part because she didn't even have financials when she was going to go in there. And we built the financials on Sunday, and it wasn't full financials. And a few weeks later, she raised $1.8 million. Man,
that's so cool. You know, thank you for towing the line for people who don't have that training. I think that's really important.
Well, nobody, look, you and I have been, I mean, we can talk about this. We both have MBAs. They don't teach entrepreneurship. They teach a class with very good professors who are passionate
and have never run a business.
They don't teach the real. I don't say the real. They don't teach the things they need to know. But in all fairness, MBAs are not designed for entrepreneurs. They're designed for middle managers who want to be.
Why did you go for your MBA? Was it for advancement at a company back then, or?
It was because at the time I worked in the venture capital business, and I worked for two of the senior partners, not the super duper partners, but there were 4 partners. The 2 junior partners, so to speak, were super smart, and they've helped me my entire career, but they had Harvard MBAs. One of them also had a PhD. And they said, and I got the job without an MBA. I beat 700 candidates for that job, or so they say, which I'm sure is true because everybody still wants to, I think, for better or for worse, wanted to be a VC. But they said, hey, look, you're super smart. We hired you, but if you're going to want a career in this business, the MBA is a check mark, and it will benefit you. At that time, I had not yet been to America Online. If I had gone to America Online, I think previous, they probably would have excused it because at America Online, in a very short amount of time, I got incredibly good at financial modeling because that's all I was doing.
What you were doing every day. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you, you do marketing analysis and financial modeling every single day.
You'll get pretty darn good.
Yeah, and you have real data to test your models. So I went, and on top of that, Chelsey, to be honest, my mom, I grew up with a single mom, and she always was an advocate of education. And I think it was an insurance policy, maybe in her mind, and maybe in mine in many ways, that if you have an MBA, you can get $150,000, salary, or 125 these days, maybe, but it's not. So I was, it was a combination of things, but really set in motion by being in the VC world and the advice from 2 people that I really respected to say, hey, look, they're going to, people are going to want the check mark. And I'm not saying that's the right reason, but that's.
Well, and then you certainly made some excellent contacts while you were there. And
Yeah. So why'd you get your MBA?
Similar reasons. I was at Boeing at the time and I had kind of maxed out level wise, and it was kind of, you need some more time and role or you need an MBA. And it was like, well, here we go. Let's do the MBA. So that's why I initially started it. I will say that I knew entrepreneurship was kind of going to be something for me all along. And I don't think I considered heavily enough the fact that an MBA just isn't quite geared toward it being a true entrepreneur. Like it really does.
How'd you know you're going to be an entrepreneur? Your whole career up until now has been working at Boeing and Microsoft.
Yeah. So I had my first business, so to speak, when I was like 5.
Oh. Go ahead.
No,
I remembered that you actually built one in college and sold it.
Yes, I did. And so in high school, I ran like a multi-$1,000 swim lesson business in my backyard. And then in college, I started I was in a sorority. I happened to be president of my sorority. Back then, during recruitment, it's a week-long process. You would cast a vote on new members. On average, a chapter would cast 17,000 votes on new members in the course of a week. Prior to the app that I built, people were tabulating those votes on paper. And so we launched our app in the first chapter to use it was fall of 2010, back when I was in school, and that was my chapter. And then I graduated college, but remained working on this part-time. My entire national sorority used it the next fall. And then the next fall, 2 national sororities used it. And by the end, before we sold it, it was more than half of the sororities in the country using our product. And I know. And a private equity firm came and snapped us up. And in hindsight, well, when you don't have kids and you're in your 20s, you have like all the time in the day. And so I was working on this business after I got home from Boeing and Microsoft. And in hindsight, I think the reason why I was getting up in the morning was like to make it to the end of the day and work on these businesses or this business. And I was obsessed with it, finding customers, doing product market fit, doing marketing, accounting, true entrepreneurial things. And I freaking loved it. And so when it was purchased, there was this gaping hole in my heart. And I was just like, man, this is just what I'm meant to be doing. And I ended up investing some of that money into a local services business. It was
into a what?
A local services business.
Okay.
Landscape installation. So if you've got questions about landscaping, I can answer them. And
did you own this, or this was somebody else?
I bought it.
Oh.
I bought it partially with some money and then partially with an SBA loan. And I grew it to 10 times the size I bought it at in 2 years. And it was a wild ride. I can't say that I would recommend getting involved in something you have no expertise in. Like
what happened to it?
I sold it to work on Proxi.
Oh, I didn't. So that's not anywhere in the story.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense. People get really tripped up by it. So I take it out of my bio. But,
So can, and you don't have to answer this exactly, but like when they bought your sorority voting thing, did you make real money?
Enough to buy a home in Seattle. So.
And did you own the whole thing at that time?
No. So I owned, I can't remember the exact percentages, but somewhere around 20%. My husband was the main developer for it, and he owned somewhere around 20%. We had 2 business partners that each owned around 20. I don't know. This is all like 20 and change percent. And then we had a 5th person who is actually my current co-founder's husband. He didn't work on it for quite as much time as we did. So he had a little bit less than 20% in this business. But
how was it having all these co-founders like that?
It was awesome. It was awesome.
You're like 5 standard deviations from the norm.
Oh, I don't know how we obviously got lucky in terms of.
I don't know. You got lucky. Why'd you get lucky? You built something that people wanted and they bought.
Oh no, that part that part was smart, but lucky in our co-founder sense. So we knew one of them was one of my best friends. One of the other people was my husband's lifelong best friend. And so we all really got along and we trusted each other. And plus it was a part-time gig for all of us. So I think that lowered this table stakes a little bit. But we loved, we would get on team meetings every week. None of us had kids at the time. We didn't have much else going on. So we all worked on it, quite a bit.
So it was a side hustle.
Yeah.
Did it have several $1 million in revenue?
No, not that big. We would have if we could have. The space just wasn't quite that big.
So you had a few $100,000 in
high
revenue.
$100,000.
And how much?
In the hundreds of thousands.
And they bought it to do a roll-up?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did they approach you?
Mm-hmm. So I didn't even know.
I'm sorry for all these questions.
No, that's
but,
great. Let's do it.
As a listener to podcasts, I always want the people never ask the real questions.
And then because I think I can't help someone do the same thing if they don't really know what happened.
Yeah, I'm grateful. Thank you.
But I think, and so anyway, this private equity firm coming out of nowhere. I mean, I'd got my MBA at the time, so I kind of had some awareness of this, but they came out of nowhere with this awesome offer, and we were like, hell yeah, you can take it. We didn't know to negotiate. We were like, that's amazing.
How was the diligence process? Was it painful?
No, it was not. We had our ducks in a row. So all of our documentation, we had all customer records, all contracts, all financial statements.
The code was notated.
Yeah,
yada, yada,
it was. I'm sure it was one of the easier acquisitions out there to go through. It was not bad.
So then you took you bought a house with your husband because you both had, or now husband, who had 40%. Yeah. You bought a home in Seattle. You rolled that money into another business. You took an SBA loan out.
Would not
to
recommend.
Buy it. Why?
The SBA process is fine. I guess that part was probably fine. They did, my house was on the line with that loan. And I think so now I've gone through bootstrapped, debt-backed, and venture-backed. And I think out of the three, debt-backed is most stressful, especially because my home was on the line. And I just felt a lot of, I don't know if I should have felt pressure, but I did feel pressure to perform. Which we did anyway, but it was more intense than I had envisioned.
Did you were doing that bootstrapped or
the landscaping business was SBA backed? But
were you? No, I mean not bootstrapped. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Bootstrapped. Now, as a side hustle.
So get this. I bought the business. It was like a mom and a pop. It's in the Seattle area.
No. Where do you actually find it to buy it?
On a local business broker site here in Seattle.
Okay.
But I was all over BizBuySell and wherever else businesses are listed. And I was looking for something because I think I had my first child or was about to, and I wanted something where I could have a manager and be more part-time than I was at Microsoft. So the deal was, okay, I'm going to spend this money. I'm going to be part-time at this business that I own, kind of manage it. And my life is going to be perfect. But the company, you should never say that to yourself. When you say that to yourself, something is afoot. So I bought this company from a mom and pop shop. This guy had basically manipulated the financial statements to look like net profit was around my salary at Microsoft. So I was like, well, that's perfect, right? And I thought, I knew I could grow it because there was just so much, they didn't even have a website. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Easy peasy growth. They had all these consistent maintenance customers. That part of it was solid. What wasn't solid was that he was paying himself this 6-figure salary, but then he would go to the bank, cash it out, and pay employees and pay for equipment off the financial statements.
So the G&A was not accurate.
Yeah. And I scrubbed the crap out of these financial statements. I asked him, and we sat in person many times. Like, my dad was a chief accounting officer. He looked at it. I had an accountant look at it. I had an attorney look at it. Like, there was just no sign of any of this. And I just don't know how you could look someone in the face, especially someone spending a lot of their savings on something, and like look at them and just lie. Anyway, acquired the business. The idea was to quit Microsoft pretty shortly, within a month or two after purchase, just to make sure it was good, which was a really good thing that I waited to quit, because the first few months we didn't change anything about the business. Nothing. Everything was the same. Same customers, same equipment, same client, like the schedule. And we were like negative by 10 or 20K every month.
What?
And
weren't you furious?
Well, yeah. You know who's really pissed off is my husband, though. But yes, I was furious. But I think back then I was in fix-it mode, because my house was on the line, like all of this other
stuff. Isn't that illegal to lie about that?
Yeah, but I talked to an attorney, and there's just like no way to prove it.
What do you mean prove it? You all of a sudden got the expenses. But you know what the lesson is for listeners and for me? It is.
What is that?
Well, I tend to do this because I'm just a curious person anyway. Yeah. But you need to. You need to remember I'm looking at a checklist I have on my screen. You got to have checklists for things. Yes. Is talk to the actual employee.
Yes. And that's where I went wrong.
They would have told you. You would have gotten that by talking to the lowest.
Yes.
I'm saying this respectfully. The lowest person in the company is actually who you want to talk to. So you're 100% right about that. And that is something I didn't do. Because when I started going negative, I opened up to the crews, and my whole plan was to kind of, I wanted to bring other people up with me, if that makes sense. And so these guys had, and I say guys because they were literally guys. These guys. Don't worry, we won't get someone writing into us telling us about pronouns. Well, we probably will, but whatever.
I feel respectful of pronouns, but these were literally self-identifying men.
It bothers me that you even have to go into this whole thing. But go ahead.
So then all of these guys, I was like training them on I was telling them about like our goals and the financial hey, if we do X number of properties in X days, we'll be profitable and I can increase your wages. So I was trying to tell them about business and explain to them how this business worked. Because the guy who had it before me just was like, go mow this grass. But I don't think that that's a good way to run a business. Honest to God, no matter how educated or not your employees are, I think they have the capability of understanding where you're going with something. And the more you can get buy-in, the better off you're going to be. And so I'm over here telling them the whole plan. And one guy goes, oh, yeah, I forget his name even. The old owner used to give us cash for overtime. Aren't you going to do that? And I was like, first of all, F no. All of you are legal and you're all going to be on the books legally. And I'm paying you legally. There's no illegal. I don't have time to be put in jail for this. I have a child. And so I was like, say what? You were getting paid in cash? And they were like, yeah. And then they were saying they told me all this other stuff that he gave them cash for, like gas and equipment. And I was like, it all clicked in that moment. And I was like, oh my God. So I had to figure out the unit economics of a landscaping business. And it's fascinating. There's so much to it. I can tell you all, at some point, if you ever want to know all about that, I can tell you.
Can you share some highlights, because
Yeah.
people might be? I'm always interested in the. I mean, can it be profitable?
Oh, very, very profitable. And the trick to landscaping profitability is being a landscape installation company, not a landscape maintenance company. The profit, the percentages are just incredibly much higher. Like when you're installing patios,
because you're making money.
When you're installing retaining walls or grading a lawn or whatever. And the real money is in residential installation. The problem with commercial installation is that you have to go through all these hoops and contracts and prove that your guys like make X number of dollars an hour. And yes, all of that checked out, but like I don't have time to like go prove all of that to someone. And then you have to turn over like work scope plans and all of this stuff. But when you go to like a high-end residential client and you talk to them about landscape installation, that's a whole different story. It's all about selling them on their dreams and their hopes for their family in their backyard. And so it was kind of like playing HGTV in someone's backyard. It was fun. By the end, we had like a designer on staff, and I had worked it out to have the right 3 crews, which is where you can be really profitable. I actually I have to give credit to some local landscape installation owner who took me under his wing when I showed him what happened to my business. And he's a competitor, but he was making can I cuss? He was making making a shitload of money in his business, like he has like 20 crews. And he was like, you can ride along with me as much as you want. Like there's so much business in this area. He was like, I'll teach you everything. And so he taught me like how to get better employees and how to set up a truck and how to talk to, I literally went to 100 customers' houses with him, and he saved my butt in a lot of regards. I don't really know. He was just a really nice human, but so it ended up working out really well, actually.
You want to hear something crazy? I used to run a landscape crew.
No.
I worked on a tree nursery to pay my way through college, and then I got promoted to unloading and loading the truck, because they figured out, and I don't know if this was true for you, I wasn't involved in the economics, obviously, at that time, but I was halfway smart enough to understand what was happening, is that they figured out that paying us less to load and unload the truck and put the crew right in it and ready to drive out was more economical. So then I moved that, and then I used to drive a landscape truck, which is different than a dump truck, but it would dump. And then I used to pull a backhoe or a skid loader, but I had a full-size backhoe that I used to do, and I did retaining walls. I did.
Sweet.
I mean, we did everything from retaining walls to.
About?
Yeah, but I didn't get to know the economics. I mean, I was Well, I knew that I was getting paid at back then $8.50 an hour, and they were charging $37.50 for me. So I think the unit economics were probably pretty good.
Really and truly were. If you price it right, it's all about, as with any pricing, there's a whole psychology, and when you're selling, you can sell at a true premium if you do just 2 things: have guys show up, and don't every day, right? Like don't skip days on jobs, which happens in the industry. Or, I forgot what I was going to say.
You had 2 things that if you do right, you'll make money.
Okay, so just show up, and people will love you. Great, not hard. And then ask them if they like what you did, and then fix it if they don't. That's it. Like, it's not that hard. And we were like, had these rave reviews online.
I'm laughing because it is that simple. I mean, it's hard, but it's that simple, isn't it?
Chelsey? Yeah, with that's the bottom line for any business. But with this, I mean, I think the hardest things about landscaping and why I wouldn't do it again as a younger white female is because these, the guys who work on your crew typically have another language that's going on, and I didn't happen to have another
Yeah, if you don't
language.
speak Spanish fluently, you can just say it.
Yeah.
Because the fact is, my wife's from South America, and thank the good Lord that she is fluent in Spanish. And I studied Spanish, and I spent a month a year in South America.
Casually.
Yeah, but you need to be able to communicate in general.
Because they'll talk shit behind your back if you don't.
Oh, they all talk shit. But they used to talk shit about
you,
about me. They didn't know that I actually spoke Spanish, and my wife. Because we as Americans have a lot of biases. Well, she looks quote unquote American because she's from South America, not Mexico. So when she instantly starts speaking Spanish and people are working with us or for us, they're like,
oh,
what just happened? But you do have to be multilingual. I mean, it helps. So that can be a barrier. And when the people work for me, what that landscape company started doing was they started bringing in lower cost employees who all spoke Spanish. And all they did was talk about the owners and the senior management all the time behind their back. And they didn't realize for a while until I said something in Spanish. And they're like, oh. And I was like, yeah, don't use these 3 words as it relates to me. But nonetheless, that's something that you have to take into account. But I am hugely impressed and shocked that you went from building an app to a landscape company. Like,
I had some kahunas. I just said, I was like, I can do it. And then I did it. In hindsight, that I was probably a poor choice, but I learned an incredible amount about managing people, more than I had in a very different way, because these employees are just very different. I learned about cash flow for real, it was not a game, because everything was on the line. Learned about customers and selling, and it was incredible. It was just a great experience.
So you turned it around and got it back to profitability, and then you sold it to the person who taught you all this stuff?
He wouldn't buy it. He didn't want any more business, and he understands that a major part of your business in turn with landscaping or any other personal service is that people want you. They don't want someone else. People are buying me. They bought my promises. They bought me visiting their home, designing for them, all of this stuff. And so when you sell it to a stranger, it just doesn't go that well. And he knew that, because he's huge. He has bought businesses, and it didn't work out. But I actually sold it to my manager, and he had been with me on every customer call and he's got an incredible story. He came from Mexico with no secondary education, no university education, and he can speak Spanish and English. And I'll tell you what, I've never seen someone change their life trajectory so fast. He was driving Uber, and now he's running a multi-million-dollar landscaping this guy's incredible. He's great. But
how did he buy it from you?
Half loan and half seller financing.
So
he still owes me some money, but that's okay. I trust him.
Yeah, but the multiples really aren't that high on that business, are they?
No, and I really wanted to work on Proxi, so I let it go for, I think, 2 times net profit. Yeah.
2 times net profit.
Which is pretty low, but whatever. It's a good chunk of change.
Did you get your money back and pay off your loan?
Oh yeah. And then I had more left over, and then I'll get some, he still owes me.
Yeah, you'll get some extra money. Wow, your story on paper, and look, I understand what you're saying, because if you build the resume the way it actually happened, people won't understand it in the traditional world.
Yeah.
And then they penalize.
It's actually been a huge issue for me, and maybe we can chat about this offline at some point, is like I need some coaching on representing my prior experience, even in my current business. Because sometimes...
Why?
Sometimes, you know, even as a manager, and hopefully people will appreciate being real. Like sometimes as a business owner, you have some like intuition as to why you want to do something. And you can't really quite pinpoint why. It's just like in a different business, this happened. It's like more anecdotal than quantitative. And I think when I don't do a good job of representing myself internally at my own company, you know, like I want to make this decision because of this. Like I need some more practice on honing my story. And I think I have I've worked really hard and I've had these great business
You have a great story. You don't have to hesitate to say it. You have an incredible amount of experience that I didn't even expect to learn and talk with you about today.
You.
I mean, you can direct them to this podcast now.
Well, people are fine. I mean, there's no like actual problem, but like I feel self-conscious about sometimes when I think we should do something, I just think we should do it. And I'm sure you've experienced that.
I'll tell you what the real challenge is.
What is it?
The real challenge is that you can only sell in general one thing to a human. So what your story is, So what your story is, hey, I worked a corporate career at Microsoft, but I was doing this thing sort of on the side that I built a business and actually sold it. And people will say to you, which they say to me regularly, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's not possible. And it's a lot about it's about the frameworks of which they live their lives and the self-limiting beliefs that they actually have, if we're being candid.
Totally.
And they'll say, well, Chelsey, I think it sounded like you actually had a child during this time too?
2 of them.
Yeah, 2. Chelsey, you can't have 2 kids, be married, run a household, run a landscaping business of which you know nothing about, and hold down a full-time job. That's not possible. You see how I'm saying this back to you. See how confusing this is. So you almost just have to pick.
Yes.
And that's what I do. So here's another thing. Think about this. We get pitched all the time here to be on the show, and I go to a person's LinkedIn, and they say, business owner, speaker, coach, mentor.
Oh, God, I kind of hate that.
Nonprofit, philanthropist, songwriter, movie maker. I mean, I'm exaggerating here on purpose, but I had a person today pitch, and it looked like they were the CEO of a company, which I was actually interested in learning about. And then they go on to say, I teach a framework of transformation and all this stuff. And what happened in your head right when I just said that? You got confused.
Yeah, you just get confused. Exactly. It just, yeah.
So you have to pick, and you have to pick and choose what's advantageous in the moment. The unfortunate part for you is that both of those stories actually are hugely advantageous to your story and credibility, which poses a challenge because your marketing analysis or financial analysis at Microsoft and everything, actually to any true software engineer, you will garner respect because they understand that you know numbers and you're more scientific. I'm using that word. I don't know if it's right or not, but they will garner that. And the other people in your business who will not dismiss, but will segment geeks from business people, which they do, will then say, well, you're on the science side, but you actually ran a business and sold it, which in many ways gives you much, and in fact did it twice, have more credibility than maybe some of the people understand. So I think you just have to tell your story like you, in the way that it happened today.
So, okay, with the VC firm, though, you can understand where I get into
No, you can't do that with the VC firm.
Exactly. So, yeah. Anyway, my co-founder has a really cohesive story, and it flows like this. and it's punchy. And so we send her out first because it's quick and easy.
You've done 2 companies without VC money. Why did you? I think you've raised 1.2 million. At least that's public, right? Why would you raise VC money for this?
Well, we want to compete with Google Maps and Yelp, and the only way to do that was with big money. So.
Well, no.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay, all right, push back. Well, I got it.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because I got tons of friends who have done things that go against the biggest companies in the world and don't do that. So I'm trying to understand if that's the narrative that was given to you and you believed it. No different than me and you going to business school and believing that was the path.
Sure.
Because
well, it certainly has helped accelerate things. I mean, money does help. I mean, it's helped us hire 5 people who are all have some fantastic experiences, and they're all really passionate about what we're up to. And I don't know that we could have gotten to that point to this point without our incredible team.
I really like you. So I'm going to say this so that you know that what I'm about to say isn't because I'm don't
ready.
like you.
Let's do it.
All you and I have generally talked about for an hour and 21 minutes, which I have thoroughly enjoyed and hope we continue here, is analytical things. And your explanation to me just now, which you can replay and listen to, is they're very passionate. They really like what we're doing. They really did that, which are probably all true. Is it moving the needle? Is your revenue increased? Have you increased users? Could you have done that otherwise? Are you convincing yourself that the money is? I'm pushing back. I've taken venture money, and I was a venture capitalist, and I am an angel investor. And I've done bootstrapping, and I've taken professional money. I've taken professional money, bought the company back from the investors, and then sold the company. So
You've really been there. Yes.
Yeah, like this is not fake.
Yep.
This is not fake.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
I get to say I've earned the right to speak from experience because I have. What you don't see is I have a sweatshirt on, so I've got like 10,000 scars on the back. That are you okay on time?
I am. I'm requesting a computer charger.
Oh, all right. Go ahead and do that. Yeah, we don't edit the show, but I want to make sure
that I'm fine with everyone knowing I just didn't bring my charger in this room.
You request a computer. Yeah, if we don't get the computer charger, then we're going to get cut off.
And this will be abruptly ending.
Everybody will be on a cliffhanger maybe you'll be safer from my question and pushing back on you. But I'm not questioning your decision, but I am because I think that there's a narrative that, and it's hard to resist, that money fixes things, and money doesn't fix things all the time. In fact, money in many times, and I live this at America Online, actually covers up major problems that you can throw money at. And you think, I'm not saying, sometimes money does fix things when you are growing so fast that you have a cash flow issue. Like, yeah, money fixes the cash flow issue when you're there. I think it's what is it, like a sweet and sour or whatever they're called. It's one of those things where it's so hard before you find product market fit to take the money and force product market fit because now you're on a timeline. And I think that for me was always the biggest. I mean, and look, Chelsey, I am telling you, in my one company, which I still have, it's sort of been dormant, but I think it has a product that will eventually do well, is I took professional money from a Sand Hill Road venture firm.
Okay.
Like a real one. And it put us down a trajectory to go into, here we go, we got power, thank you. It put us down a trajectory to go into a segment of a market that was the right decision for the moment in the short term, but not a good decision. In fact, almost a catastrophic decision, pretty much a catastrophic decision in the long run. But we were forced to chase revenue that sometimes you need to forego to get to the right place that wins in the end. And I made the mistake. I met with the CTO of a friend of mine has a friend who's the CTO of Citrix, and he had been in my position before with a term sheet from the same venture firm and said, you should not take this money. You should. And my answer was very similar to what yours just was, but we need the money. We need more people. He said that's not your problem. You think that's your problem, but you are about to take on a bigger problem that will put you down a trajectory that you are now committed to.
Well, that is certain. Yes.
Without a cap table, well, you can change. There's plenty of stories. I mean, Buffer is one that's in the press a lot. A company out of San Francisco that bought itself back from the venture firm, which was a really good venture firm. They're really good people in San Francisco. Tony Conrad used to work there. He still may. But anyway, you can redo your cap table. It's just really hard. I don't know, Chelsey. It puts you down a path that I'm just surprised because you just did 2 companies where you sold them and you didn't raise money.
Well, I think those are all really good points. And I think you're absolutely right that venture money can mask major issues and growth issues. And it can help cover a lot of those things up.
Are the founders, are you founders taking salary?
Yeah, we are taking salary. That's
the part
lowish.
For me that always hurt.
As a venture capitalist or as a founder?
Oh, no, just because, quite candidly, it's because you're using your capital for your own salary.
Yeah, it's hard.
When you could be dumping it into the
product
business, and maybe that's the bootstrapper.
Yeah. It's painful, but we're taking fairly low salaries and more out of, for instance, like, I don't know how to say this, but like, we're all moms. And so it's kind of like, we want to take enough to like pay for our kids' childcare at a minimum.
Of course.
And I think that's just like we're drawing a line for women, like in representation of women, like in order for women to be founders, you have to give them the enough salary to be able to help to keep their children alive, frankly. And so,
no, I'm not against salaries at all. In fact, I do think you have to pay yourself, and I think that it puts yourself on the line more accountability than taking it for.
You're right. You're so right, because it depletes the capital you have to really further your product and further marketing. And we do think about that all the time.
And it's painful at the same token, but I think you make a really important point. And that point is, I'm not saying you treat men and women differently, but let's just, like, sometimes
that happens.
Men and women are different. And if and someone could say, well, why didn't Chelsea's husband take care of the kids? I'm sure he does. But the bottom line is you both need at least enough money to take care of children to make it work. And that's the reality.
It's just reality. If you want this demographic in this space, then it's just what has to happen.
Well, I don't think any. I'm indifferent whether I want
not
or not.
You,
I want people. I want people to have a fair shot at doing what they want to do. If they deserve it and they work for it, there's no reason to exclude some group because you have a feeling about it. So. Proxi, can you talk about how you even got involved, because you have a co-founder and the initial idea, and is the initial idea still the idea?
In a way, Yes, it's still one of our.
What was it? You made a really interesting face right there.
In a way, yes. Well, okay, so we have this really big vision about helping transform the way that people navigate through the real world with technology. So it's hard, when people say, well, is a map like it? It's like, no, that's not. Like, we have a bigger vision for the 5-10 years situation, but mapping is it right now. It's how we get there. It's how we start. So back October of 2020, pandemic was high and mighty, and we still didn't know a lot about it. And so parents were trying to figure out how to allow their kiddos to trick or treat safely. And so by safely, kind of like leave candy out in a candy dish or like throw it down a chute. So in my co-founder's South Seattle Facebook group, there was a parent who started a thread that was like, hey, if your home is participating in COVID safe trick or treating, add your address here. The comments on the thread were hundreds long with these addresses. And my co-founder was like, oh, this makes no sense. Now, she says that because she actually built geospatial tools for a U.S. intelligence agency. And so she comes to this with a really unique lens of geospatial, visualizing data, making things actually actionable for people walking around the world. And so when she saw this list of addresses, she was like, okay, this makes no sense. How can I kind of just help my neighborhood Facebook group out? So she started looking into okay, there's got to be a technology that essentially allows maps to be crowdsourced. And there was none out there. And so she threw together a Google form to a Google Sheet to a Google My Map, where people could just populate this form and then a point would appear. Well, there's a lot more to it because she had to manually verify addresses, etc. But there ended up being 2,500 points on the map and 500,000 views, and it got on Good Morning America, and it was this mom saves Halloween story. Well, meanwhile, she and I have been friends for about a decade, and we actually tried to launch a QR peer-to-peer payments company before Venmo. And for a variety of reasons, it didn't work out. We were incredibly early on that movement and probably not in a professional place to have stepped away full time. But anyway, we always said that whenever we found something that we were really convicted about, that we would do it together. And so whenever she called me with this, hey, look, all these people are adding these points, there's no crowdsourced mapping technology out there. We knew that, when you see a blue ocean, in terms of technology, it's kind of okay, we have the chops to tackle this, and we're at a great place professionally to do it. And with our families, we were at a spot where we could do it. And so we went for it. And my husband is actually a developer, and so he devved out the MVP. And anyway, we kept on testing it throughout, for holiday lights in 2020. We tested it again, and it worked out really well.
So can I say back to you what I think? I call it a portable digital map. It's basically a map that you own yourself. You can invite people to put things on it, and then you can, with a snippet of code, make it easy to import into a post on Facebook, a post on Instagram, TikTok, or onto your website that you run with WordPress or any of the other platforms. I'm
going to take this video and I'm going to put it on our website. That was a really good way to say it. That's exactly what we do. And, we thought we were going to go get huge because of providing a crowdsourced mapping technology. There are a million use cases for that, right? Not only holiday, for every holiday, but also group travel and, planning a weekend with your family, etc. Turns out people use crowdsourced travel map. They use our maps all the time, but it wasn't our main. It's not why we're necessarily successful today. We actually see ourselves in a space between Google My Maps and having a developer dev out a custom map solution for an individual or business. And we provide like customization so you can brand your map however you wish. It won't say Proxi on it. It's all, branded all yours, so it looks like something native to your site or just your branding in general. And then also we provide analytics. I think I talked about that briefly earlier, but
you mentioned it, but that's okay. So when you say, so did the market shift? Is it now an enterprise?
Yeah, so we're B2B to C. We're kind of going after that consumer love. And then a lot of those consumers own businesses, or they, are a manager at a business, and they see this map and it's like, hell, we've got to use this professionally too. Kind of similar to the Canva story. So we
how are you going to make money?
Enterprise, so seats, and additional features and support, as well as advertising. Google made, I don't need to tell you, billions of dollars last year on in-map ads, which we have a very different take on, but that will be a part of our revenue.
What does that mean? What is, we have a very different take on?
So basically, when you're on Google Maps or Yelp or wherever else local places are recommended to you, the places that pay the most or, pay in the right way will come surface to the top of those recommendations. We will allow advertising, but only if you've been placed on a map by a map creator first. So you will only be able to highlight your own map point if someone put you there on their map in the first place, like offers, or making your point.
They'll game that. I'll game that.
Well, great, because I'll make money off of it. That's fine. But the whole point is that maps, if you go off and you find someone's map, if you trust them, their map should have integrity, is the idea, right? Like, of course, people will.
I like that. Yeah, like Amazon reviews. You're either a verified person or you're a person who got paid.
Yeah, similar.
I think you can make money without the advertising. I think that complicates the business unless you're going to build a back end that's self-serve. Is that
eventually
what you're working on? Because you're the freemium model with additional seats. So you get one seat. Do you get one seat with the free? I didn't look. I got the link after I created the map. I just didn't.
Yeah. So right now, you can go to our site and the entire product is free. Monetization will come at some point in the near future.
But the model is,
the model is not 100% baked, but that is the,
okay.
That is the
enough.
essential, there is an enterprise step up, if you will. We'll call it Proxi Pro, and also the advertising and affiliate links eventually.
Yeah, you can make a lot of money with that, and then you're going to share it with the map owner,
exactly.
You think?
So anyone should be able to make money off creating maps. You can be a map influencer, branded.
So you're basically creating the about.me of maps.
Tell me more about .me.
Should
I have just said yes?
I've lived through so many cycles of the internet.
Should I have just said yes?
Yeah, well, no, it definitely does. I'm actually excited about it. I've lived an incredible life through a journey of not having any computer. I mean, I'm an X-Gen, and it has been the most really great life to have grown up with a kid without a smartphone, I think, and then had a computer, and then lived through literally the creation of proliferation. The internet existed a long time ago, but the proliferation and commercialization of the internet. So I've loved it. I think it's made me smarter. I made a lot of mistakes, which I hope I can cash in on my later years here. But the About.me was a curated content site where the editors owned a niche topic. So say fishing, or if it was fishing, you could think fishing, fly fishing, freshwater fishing, saltwater fishing, and they would curate the content that appeared in these sections of about.
Super cool.
It wasn't about.me. It was about.com.
Oh.
It was one of
About.com. What does that domain go for these days?
whatever. Wow. What was it called? God. Let me finish the concept, and I'll figure out what it was. It was an About.me. About.me was a one-page about you that was sort of your it was your contact card on the internet. It was very similar to another site that started with a P that my friend Rick co-founded. Anyway, God, I haven't had enough caffeine this morning, Chelsey. But anyway, this site, which we'll get the name of, had content editors. They curated the content. So put spots on the map, but it was just spots in their section, in their niche. And then they would promote it, obviously, share it, and it was shared with the world. It was also searchable from the top down because someone could niche down into business, finance, stocks, etc. And then they would share the advertising revenue, which was all trackable, and they would know how many banners or how many links or whatever was served there, and then they would get compensated for running it. So your business model is almost exactly similar.
Yeah.
In that you can make money off of that. Affiliate links starts to get weird because affiliate tracking depends on who signs up. And then, I could put all my Amazon affiliate links on my own map and you never get the revenue. So you'll have to figure that one out. But
yeah, that's going to be a bear.
Well, I don't know that I understand where you are. You have a lot of things on the table. I might never even tackle that because affiliate money is just really small percentage points. It can add up on volume, but and obviously sites have made a lot of money.
Well, for instance, we recently worked with Seattle Restaurant Week to publish a map for Restaurant Week, and there were 300,000 views on the map, and
wow.
Or maybe a little bit more, but whatever. And then people will click into each map point. Well, we just gotten a partnership with Open Table, and we'll be able to input those booking links and share revenue with them on bookings from maps like this. And so I think there are some niche use cases where it makes a lot of sense and can be implemented fairly easily and sustainably. But we'll see.
Yeah, you'll see. I trying to look at this. Guy's going to kill me. You should go look up the history of this company. But what you just said actually just flipped my mind totally, because I think what you actually might have done is build a hack to build your own maps that you curate and you publish. Yes. And then you get the money yourself. So you might not even use the community crowdsourcing thing.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people don't at this point. But yes, to portray your expertise in a...
Well, no, I'm saying, yeah, you could just become a media company that you just happen to build. Yeah, you're a media company. You just happen to build a tool that allows you to build maps faster and quicker than anybody else. And then you publish them and you put them out, and then you capture all the revenue. I know that doesn't sound like you could make a lot of money, but I bet you could.
I think we can. We're putting out an app soon, and I don't know how much I want to. We haven't talked about how much we are revealing about it, but essentially, discoverability will be a huge portion of that. So, I think I'll say it because it's good. The neural network of map points, right? So, when you get into a Wikipedia black hole, is what you'll be able to experience with maps instead. So you'll be able to go to a map point and it'll say this map was created by so-and-so. And then do you want to either, I don't know how much I want to do you want to follow that person and see their other maps?
I mean, it won't be hard for someone.
Yeah, for anyone to deduce, right?
And the truth is, Chelsey, I feel the same way you do a lot of the time. But what I've learned, you can give your whole business plan away. Go execute it. Yeah. It's not, you're going to have to, what you're doing is, yes, somebody engineer in the weekend could create a beta product, but And in fact, you could do it with OpenStreetMaps and do an okay job, but it does not as portable as what you have, or Google Maps and then share your map, which is cumbersome anyway. But nonetheless, execution. I mean, do you agree with that? Like execution. It's just ideas are just a dime a dozen. But I will say I totally know what you are experiencing because I'm like, I'm not telling anybody.
Well, it's like, that. I haven't talked to my team. Like, are we talking about it? Are we not? Like, what? But yeah, so,
listen to you.
or people, okay, I'm going to say the last one. Or people can.
You're your type A in you definitely coming out like, hey, we're doing this.
Like, here we are. We're going to go for it. So, or people can click on a map point and see, other maps with where that point is. And so that's just going to surface like an immense amount of like clickability and like going down that Wikipedia black hole, so to speak. Like you could spend hours and hours surfing through the maps, is the idea.
In a positive way to discover things that you otherwise didn't know.
Definitely. Yeah. Because every map point, people can write whatever they want to as the description. So theoretically,
I'm pulling you out of the black hole comment. Because the black hole comment, if you read the stolen focus, which is going around here, around how people engineer things and how YouTube actually holds your thing. I'm saying this is a positive thing. You can discover things that you never knew existed, and you can discover different people's point of view
on the physical
where
world.
Where that same thing that you see on one map has a completely different angle on another because another curator made it.
Yep. Exactly. We're so excited to get that into people's hands. I think people will love it. But
well, you have a tough, you have a two-way market.
Yeah, for sure.
You need, and two-way markets are super hard. Have you experienced that?
Certainly.
Challenge?
Certainly, yes, it is. It is hard. But
is that a podcast host?
Yeah, no, I don't know how else to. I mean, of course, it's been an issue, and I think it will continue to be. But that's why we're here.
How are people finding you? How are people finding you besides podcasts and being on here and sharing an enormous amount of information, which I'd love to have you in the studio. I think we'd probably go 4 hours, and that's the fun of it.
We're actually coming down to the Bay to raise our next round, so we'll let you know.
Well, of course you are.
We'll let you know when we're there.
I'll support you in any way I can. Yeah, you have to come into the studio here we have in Half Moon Bay and do an in studio. It's so much.
We would. You have to meet my co-founder too. She's incredibly interesting, and or both of them are. We actually brought on a third co-founder, director of engineering, and she's wonderful.
How'd that work?
So one person in our company had worked with her at a prior company, and at Microsoft, actually. And so we just knew what a stellar A, engineer she was, B, how respected she is by her peer group, and C, like what a great leader she can be. And so we snapped her up for Meta, which was a good hire for us.
That's huge.
She is just so incredibly passionate about it that it just made sense to have her as a co-founder.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm always interested in the co-founder situations because you really have had incredible designed luck.
Yeah.
Because I think it takes effort to be good co-founders with one another. But most of the stories a lot of the stories I hear that something doesn't work, it's because just people didn't get along, not because the company
Well,
wouldn't
it's
work.
tricky as hell.
So,
to get along with your co-founder, you're making these really big choices and decisions. And if you're intelligent humans, you'll have opinions. And so, yeah, that is hard.
Well, it has a substantial effect on the cap table. And
yes.
And that, for better or for worse, matters. And it creates a lot of situations. So how big are you now?
People-wise? 5
Yes.
full-time.
Not how tall you are.
5 full-time people, and then a slew of contractors in many different capacities, like map makers from the Philippines, cold lead generators from the Philippines.
What do you call lead generating people to use it?
So just to put them in an email campaign that exposes them to the product. Works pretty well. But if you have good ideas, let me know.
I'm looking for tips from you, Chelsey. I'm trying to extract.
No, it has been going really
some.
well. We have a really particular person that we're generating through this process, and so we feel like we can communicate the value prop to them fairly well, and fairly quickly. So,
you have an ideal customer written out,
and
is it me?
No. Actually, right now we're going after hotel front desk managers, the chamber of commerce presidents, people who
concierge
exactly.
people.
And the cool thing about Proxi is that you can duplicate our maps over and over at the click of a button. And so with a concierge, for instance, they have all these business relationships, and getting these bookings and conversion is the ultimate name of the game for them. And that's exactly what we help them do. And they can just click duplicate, then they can add points to our map and for specific clients and highlight them. And so it looks like a really thoughtful tool that someone put together for, the client. And really it only took like 2 minutes. So. And then we're about to be able to add date time. So that's another incredible feature for us. We actually, half of our customers are event organizers, and all of them have been requesting date time to be associated with points. And so the points will roll on and off the map based on date time. And it's going to be incredible for something like South by Southwest or
Burning Man.
Also, I actually haven't been, but I bet it would be good for Burning Man. Things like street fairs.
Although nobody had it, service sucks. So
that's also something coming down the pipeline, is taking it offline, because we have a huge clientele of like hikers and people who want to use it offline, like mountain bike, fly fisher, people who need to be offline, and people mark long locations on the map for those things. And anyway, they want it offline, so we're working toward that too.
Well, this has been super fun. I know that you are in a space today with other people and probably need to spend some time with them. So thank you for sharing a lot of information. I do have a question. You're a mom, you have 2 kids, you're married, just so I check in, you don't have any other side hustles?
No. This has been...
That would be a fair question.
It would be at this point. No, the answer is no.
What does your day look like?
So I have it starts off at 6 a.m. with a sweet caress of my cheek by my 2-year-old boy. He's he's really at a cute little stage, but he comes in and he goes like this, and he's like, "I love you, Mama." And then we get out of bed and he's like, "Can I have some milk?" So we go downstairs and I get him his glass of milk. And to be honest with you, this is how I make it work. But he watches a cartoon while I do a strength workout in the living room. And that's cool. He's happy. I'm happy. Screen time debates aside, it's working out for us. So, so I get in this 30-minute strength workout, and then then my daughter gets up, and she almost right at that exact moment when I finish, and she's almost 4. And so then we do the whole breakfast thing, get them ready, get me ready. And then we have a nanny. And I'm a big proponent in talking about all the help that you receive as an entrepreneur, because a lot of times celebrities or like big entrepreneurs will make it feel like, "Oh, I just do it, it just all gets done and magically." Like, no, it doesn't. Even at my scale, it takes a whole crew of people to help. So we have a nanny, and she's awesome. And she stays for an 8-hour workday. And that during that time, I go to the office, and we have an office about 20 minutes from my house, and it's kind of central to all of our employees, except for those who are truly virtual. And then, meetings all day. And after work, I rush home, and I'm with my kids, and I make dinner, and we go on a walk if it ever stops raining around here in Seattle. It's been a ridiculously dreadful winter for us. And then tuck those nuggets in bed, and then I pretty much go straight to bed, honestly. My husband and I will watch TV or kind of chat for a little bit, but then I have to call it good. I'm tired at about 9 o'clock.
Do you run your day by calendar?
Yeah, I do. I have literally everything in my calendar down to maybe this is too nitty gritty, but it would help me if I heard it. So I've even started to schedule out once a month. I look ahead for whose birthday is it this month in my life? A financial review happens every 2 weeks with my husband Friday at 4. I exfoliate my face on Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Yes, it is run by a calendar, but I try to get everything on there.
Yeah, I've always been incredibly impressed with moms, because I think moms know how to batch better than anyone I've ever seen, because they understand that absolute focus. So that's interesting. So you're getting, if you go to bed at 9-ish, you're getting 8 or 9 hours sleep. Yeah.
And that's been a recent development. So until, until I had kids, I was an incredible workaholic, and I would sleep about 5 hours a night. So, and that happened for around 9 years. And I loved it. I was not tired. I was happy. When you don't have kids, I feel like kids for me just emotionally sucked me dry. Now I have to have more sleep, because I literally can't interact with them and be a good mom unless I have more sleep. So, and plus, there's so much research and coming out about how incredibly important sleep is to your longevity and life. And
it's my wife feels like that, and we don't have any kids, so I think it's just me.
What do you mean?
That she needs.
That's amazing. She's I really need to recharge to interact with Brandon.
No, I'm serious. That's why I had to do a podcast, because I can't ask questions after 11 a.m.
Oh my God, your statement is so relatable. But yeah, you gotta recharge for some reason. How much sleep do you get a night?
I agree.
Your listeners probably know.
As you would imagine, on Sleep Tracker, which is a sensor that sits under your
I get it.
mattress.
We have an 8 sleep. Is it similar?
Another thing's called Sleep Tracker. I don't know. Maybe same thing, but it does your breath. It does your heart rate. Same thing. And I shoot for 7:30. Now, 7 hours and 30 minutes. If I ride my bike more than 50 miles in general, which can happen a few times a week, I'm definitely going to probably go towards 7:45, 8. And I do sauna a few times a week. We have a sauna. I got lucky. I bought one after many years to celebrate my birthday. So that actually really is a 1-2 punch. I try to sit in cold water, but I'm shooting for 7:30. And if it's a hard workout day on top of maybe a hard work day, although I think this, as you've been an entrepreneur such a long time, you sort of become trained for the emotional stuff. Some days are better than others or whatever, but so sometimes I've gotten 9, but for the most part these days I'm at 7:30 to 8.
Because that's where you feel optimal. Is that how you got to that number? Okay.
Yeah, so honestly, my wife, this will be over by the time this comes out in 7 or 10 days, but my wife got COVID. So she's been living downstairs. I've been living upstairs. And to be honest with you, Chelsey, mostly in the studio.
Yeah.
And I've just been on cooking duty. I slipped the food on the stairs, and dogs, helping with the dogs, and then washing dishes, cleaning dishes. It pretty much probably sounds like your normal day, but for me, it's just been a lot more. Like this morning, I forgot to take the trash. I didn't know. I'm writing a book, so I wrote until midnight last night. And then because there was some music on from a guest who we just had on that was incredibly focused music. So I just got in the mood, and then I needed to take the trash out, but it was going to be too loud for the neighbors. So this morning I got up at 6:15, which isn't that early.
But when you stayed up till midnight.
I got up at 6:15. Right. So last night I'm sort of, but I feel okay today. I know that I'm going to probably ride 35 miles today. By the end of the day, I'll just be tired. So that was a long answer to your, but I think I don't know, you listen to podcasts. These is the type of stuff when I listen to podcasts that I really want to know. I mean, you've shared incredible knowledge, and some of the stuff we've talked about is just, it's the least common denominator that everybody talks about, but this is the type of stuff that nobody really talks about, but you really want to know. Yeah,
because it's how do they actually make it work out? And, it's a mystery unless someone tells you. It's not like you magically can, I guess you can kind of experiment your way into it, but why? When you could just ask someone for the shortcut, so.
I'm with you. So thanks for sharing that. And you have to give 3 HPTs, high percentage tips, and you can only give 3. What are they?
The tip I love most, but don't always live by, is be the most prepared person in the room. And that generally bodes real well in every situation. So whether that's a friend hangout and you should have thought about someone's birthday beforehand, or it's a meeting with an investor. That's kind of an obvious one, with an investor, but like just being the most knowledgeable person who walks in the room bodes real well. That's my number 1. I think my number 2 is take care of yourself. After so many years of not, I had a couple health problems, and luckily it's nothing serious, but I was scared enough at the beginning of those health problems to be shocked into taking care of myself a little more, because nothing else matters at the end of the day but your health. And I think my third thing is listen to yourself, because you know more than you think you do. And my co-founder and I, especially this go around, we have bumped into, I think, 2 different situations at this point where we did not listen to our gut, and that did not go the right way. So listen to your gut. Did I pass? Are those high percent? I feel like those are the things I live by, but yeah.
We're not doing data here. It's not a pass fail. I think those are incredible. I have not heard in over, I think now 200 conversations we've had, the prepared one, but I think it's when you said it, I was like, yeah, because I walk into the room prepared and can smoke anybody. It doesn't mean I'm the smartest. It just means that I got the data.
I heard this tip at Boeing, and at the time I was 22 years old, and I was sitting in a room with one of 4 Boeing CFOs, and she was sharp. I admire her the whole leadership team I admire very much. I'm still friendly with them, but one time, you can only go in unprepared a couple of times to meetings with someone like that. And so one time I showed up less prepared than I could have been. And she was so graceful. But I was a kid. Like, she was just like, no problem. Like, come back. Like, come give me this answer when you have the time. But I was wrecked after that. I was so ashamed that I just didn't have the answer. It seemed so obvious in hindsight. And I was talking to my mentor at Boeing, and he was like, Chelsey, no problem. Like, it happens. Like, don't worry about it. But he was like, if you can be the most prepared person in the room. And I was like, oh, that hits home real good. And so I don't always live by that, but when I do, it works out better.
It, for me, always works out. People don't like it.
People actually don't
because they don't
like it. Yeah.
No, they don't like it because they don't show up prepared.
Exactly. It's not too hard to stand out if you were just prepared.
No, it really isn't. Listen to your customers, what they say, build what they want.
Exactly.
Or what they'll pay for, and be prepared. I think that's a great piece of advice. Where can listeners find Proxi?
They can find Proxi at proxi.co and across all channels at some variation of proxi.co.
We'll put that in the show notes. Congratulations on all your success. I had no idea, obviously, because you purposely didn't write it all. But that's why we have conversations here on the edge and not interview questions, because I would have never nobody would have gotten to, and you wouldn't have got to let your light shine through that you have a really incredible story and have done some really hard things. So thanks for being on the show, and thanks for sharing everything. When you and your co-founder come down to NorCal here, please make sure that I know so that you ladies can come in studio.
I certainly will. We'll be there sometime July, August. So I'll keep you updated. All right.
Thanks a lot. Bye, everyone. Don't hang up. I gotta get your